Taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda. Kenya nchi tunayoipenda. Kenya nchi tunayoipenda.
This is Bomas of Kenya on the 25th of October 2020. Kenya's political elite have gathered to launch the Building Bridges report, which among other things seeks to amend the Constitution of Kenya of 2010. One after the other, speakers take to the podium, expressing support or opposition to the proposals.
Let us be sober in this discussion.
All of us are citizens of Kenya, can air our views openly.
So now we ended up the president and the people's president.
Ukitembea barabara, kwanza lazima ujipange. Utapitia wapi?
And at the end of this political process, an amendment bill has been presented to Kenya, seeking to amend 78 articles of the Constitution, possibly through a referendum. On this 7-part limited series, we sit down with top constitutional experts at Sango Chesoni and Bobby Mkangi, both of whom sat in the committee of experts that drafted Kenya's Constitution of 2010, to fully understand the implications of these proposed constitutional changes. But to get the full context, one must rewind the clock back to this moment, back to this handshake that shaped Kenya's political life in unexpected ways, and that may lead the country down the path of a constitutional referendum.
We, the leaders, are equally summoned to reflect on our performance toward the achievement of our nation's aspirations.
We have had the opportunity for extensive discussions on matters Kenya, and we have come to a common understanding, an understanding that this country of Kenya is greater than any one individual.
Alongside the handshake and their speeches, the duo released this 9-point communique titled Building Bridges to a New Kenyan Nation, and this became the foundation for the BBI process.
In the 55 years since independence, Kenya has constantly sought to live up to its promise and the dreams its founding mothers and fathers had for us. We are grateful for our fathers. We stand on their shoulders. Yet we also see that the promise of our nation has not been met as fully as it should have been.
As I see it, the communique is exactly that. You have two people who entered into some form of agreement between each other and had issues that they wanted to explore. And because one of them is the head of state, he has a responsibility, and he was using public monies. He has a responsibility to explain what it is he was using these public monies for. And so it requires a level of formalization that wouldn't be attendant if he was not the head of state. In other words, if it had been two private citizens who were just heads of parties, of political parties, he would not have been necessarily required to document the purpose of this. And so I see this as an attempt to formalize whatever informal discussions they had had with each other, and to create structure and give some legitimacy to it. But that's what I understand this to be, that this is a statement of what it is the two of them felt ails the nation, and which they feel required them to sit down and discuss with each other.
Our political system has been unable to respond to feelings of alienation in sections of our people.
Kenyatta and Odinga's 9-point agenda promised to address what they felt were pressing matters that Kenyans needed to address: ethnic antagonism and competition, lack of a national ethos, inclusivity, devolution, divisive elections, safety and security, corruption, shared prosperity, and responsibilities and rights of the citizens.
There are still questions around these 9 points. Where was the public's input? As Atango said, it was an agreement between these two gentlemen, and they actually said how will it work. It's between Raila Odinga and the president. Yes, with time, people have sort of joined the bandwagon or boarded the train, but many have not. And I think it's because of how the journey began. I think for me, the communique was good. The points that were highlighted in the communique really are the issues that, when you look closely, still ail the country. But in the spirit of public participation, in the spirit of transparency, I think if the two gentlemen had come out at first and said, we have agreed to cool down issues and work together, and we're going to look for a methodology or a way of getting this, and perhaps even the team that they'd have formed is the one that could have come up with these 9 points or more. And I think that's where we are right now, that we are tied to this. The journey has been more reactionary than sort of algorithmic.
The final page of the communique solidifies the next step after the handshake, a program to implement these shared objectives.
The program shall establish an office and retain a retinue of advisors to assist in this implementation. They have mandated both Ambassador Martin Kimani and Mr. Paul Mwangi to oversee the establishment of this program.
They then proceeded to set up a body, which was, I think, some form of task force. And that body undertook work, again, using public resources. I keep going back to using public resources because if, again, this had been done using private resources, there's nothing to discuss. So they set up a body, and that body produced a report. And so that's the report. That's the final report. And then one of the recommendations of the body was that there should be amendments to the Constitution. And so, hence the amendment bill. Whether or not that is how one should proceed if they want to amend the Constitution, I'm not going to go into. I'm just addressing what these are. And so, what you will be voting on as a citizen if we go to a referendum is the bill. And so, the bill is where you need to look to understand what changes would be made to the Constitution.
Mtu akikuuliza, labda mtu ametoka nchi nyingine, akuja kuulize wewe kama Jane, hii BBI naona kwa TV ya Kenya, hebu nieleze ni nini?
Mimi sijaijua juu sijaambiwa vizuri, hatujaambiwa, hatujaiona, tulikuwa tunangojea tuletewe tusome ndio tuelewe. Unajua sasa unaongelea ile kitu umesoma umeiona.
I don't know anything about the BBI. Only what I heard is about Prime Minister, President and Deputy President. Only that.
Sijajua. Nimesikia tu BBI. Kitu nimeona tu kwa magazeti, kwa TV, ninaelewa kiasi. Ni kwamba nafasi za serikali za kazi, kama tuseme ni governor, akikuwa mwanaume, mdogo wake akiwa mwanamke, vitu kama hizo.
Kitu ambacho napinga BBI ni hivi. Imekuja kwa wakati ambao haufai. Kwa sababu ile rasilimali inaenda kutumiwa kupitisha hii referendum ama BBI, ingetumika kwa mambo yale ambayo yanasonga nchi.
BBI ni nini?
BBI ni ile amendment ya Constitution ya 2010. Sababu after 10 years kuna kuwaga na amendments ya constitution. So this BBI ni amendment ya 2010 ndio inakuwa amended, sababu ukiona nchi zingine zimeamend constitution wao after 10 years huwa wana amend. So this BBI imekuja ku amend constitution ya 2010.
Mambo ya BBI hapana. Hiyo BBI sasa kuna moja tulikuwa tumeangusha.
Amani ikuwe imewekwa kwa room, ikuwe hajaweka na support.
Lakini umeisoma hiyo BBI?
Sijasoma, siwezi kudanganya.
Sasa unajuaje ya kwamba inaleta amani?
Amani first of all imeongelewa tangu wa launch. Nasikia tu ni amani. Amani wengine yote hiyo sitaki kujua. Bora amani.
BBI unajua ni nini?
Hapana. Mimi naona tu inaandikwa Bridges Initiative BBI, sijui ni nini hiyo.
Building Bridges Initiative.
Yeah.
By the way, the report deals with a lot of things that are not necessarily legal issues, are not necessarily constitutional issues, are not necessarily policy issues. And there is a lot of good intent, even in the amendment bill. I mean, I think for example, the statements to do with prosperity in, and economic equality are great, they're great statements.
It's among the first proposals of the bill that the Constitution is amended to insert this new article, 11A, Economic and Shared Prosperity. The Constitution recognizes the need for an economic system that provides equitable opportunities for all the people of Kenya to benefit from economic growth of a more comprehensive, fair, and suitable manner. 2, the state shall promote A, productivity through protection of intellectual property rights, B, investment, enterprise, and industrialization for sustainable economic development, C, sustainable sources of livelihood, including agriculture, pastoralism, and the blue economy, D, an economic system that supports small and micro enterprises. Then it goes on to E and F, so application of science and technology in the production system and an infrastructure that supports the digital economy. It sounds really good.
Great. Largely, it's actually a statement of policy.
Right.
There is no reason why under the current constitution you can't do this.
Yeah.
It provides for them. And I think the bulk of what the people as citizens would probably be concerned about actually lies in 11A.
What the experts are saying is that this specific proposal is already covered in the Constitution. We put them to task to draw these similarities they talk about.
When you think of issues to do with intellectual property rights,
it's covered.
It's covered.
11A is the proposed amendment. Okay? 11.2, which already exists in the Constitution. 11.2C. The state shall promote the intellectual property rights of the people of Kenya. So we are now going to have a constitution that reads, the state shall promote the intellectual property rights of Kenya, of the people of Kenya, and then proceeds to say, the state shall promote productivity through protection of intellectual property rights.
Repetitive.
It's repetitive. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. Investment, enterprise, and industrialization for sustainable economic development. You'll find it in that 11, you'll find it in
10.
In 10, you'll find it in the Bill of Rights, you'll find it in
Land and Environment.
Land and Environment, specifically, I think it's Article 40 that talks about property, right to property.
Chapter 12. The following principles shall guide all aspects of public finance in the Republic. There shall be openness and accountability, including public participation in financial matters. The public finance system shall promote an equitable society, and in particular, the burden of taxation shall be shared fairly. Revenue raised nationally shall be, and then it goes into shall be shared equitably. But basically, fairness, equity are all principles of public finance. So all they've done is lift bits and pieces of different aspects of these principles, because these are some of the principles that guide the Constitution. And then put them in 11A.
But not everything is repeated in the Constitution. Some of the big proposed amendments, if adopted, will change the structure of government. They will influence how the executive will relate with other arms of government and will give the ordinary citizens some specific responsibilities.
By 1997, the Kenyan people had got to a stage where we were demanding that our constitution should not happen without us. We had taken back that space. I see BBI as an attempt by the political elite to recapture constitution making from the citizens. And the greatest manifestation is that by law, the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission, chaired by Professor Guy, was required to undertake civic education. Mm-hmm. By law, the Committee of Experts on the Review of the Constitution, ourselves, were required to undertake civic education. The only recent constitution making and amendment process that has happened prior to BBI, where the public were not involved, was the development of the proposed new constitution, which was rejected in 2005. That is the only process where we don't know who was writing, we still don't know who they were, where there was no consultation with the public.
I pity Kenyans because it's a technical document, very, very difficult even for the technicians because of the cross-referencing, understanding the ramifications, because at times when you look at constitutional documents, you also need to wear your conspiratorial spectacles. And coincidentally, Asango is just doing that.
Whether you've got your conspiracy glasses on or off, we'll go through the implications of the proposed amendments. In the next episode, we tackle the big question that BBI has posed for the political class: a president, a deputy president, a prime minister, and 2 deputies. The new structure of government that the BBI proposes. When you look at the president, the prime minister, the 2 deputy prime ministers, the vice president, is there duplication of roles?
Okay, so I'd like to add another group of people there. Your 14 to 22 deputy ministers. What are they coming to do? I mean, what's these people's job?
This is all political accommodation.
So I'm lost.
Creating seats for people who feel they have to be accommodated after 2022.